Everton could be busy this transfer window with new signings coming through the door hopefully, and there's a couple of key positions that need addressing. Firstly, both fullbacks, but also central midfield maybe, and as well a striker. And we'll get into the reasons as to why certain positions need filling, but first let's get into the fullbacks. So the big problem for Everton this season has been we've not really got any fullbacks that can offer much in the final third. We've got Jake O'Brien as the right back, who has been in and out the team, who obviously isn't a right back and has struggled to perform creatively in the final third, and that's hurt us at times, only averaging 0.55 key passes per game. And I think we noticed this mainly against Chelsea. Frequently, Iliman Ndiaye had Marc Cucurella pinned to that narrow position we see here, which allowed O'Brien to be in space all the time. And this happened more than once in the game. But when O'Brien gets into these positions that attacking fullbacks will be comfortable in, he's simply not comfortable in those positions, and you can't really blame him because he's a centre-back. This meant that Everton obviously let good chances go, and we didn't really hurt Chelsea when we were presented good opportunities to do so. So when looking at potential right-back options for Everton, I had in my mind somebody who's comfortable in that final third, not only receiving the ball, but also having that end product, be that scoring goals or creating chances for others. The first right back I'm putting forward is somebody who's at a European giant right now, but isn't really the first choice. However, when he does play, he shows just how comfortable he is in that attacking third. He averages 0.78 key passes per game, more than Jake O'Brien does, and is naturally an attacking fullback. But defensively, he's also pretty solid. Last season, he averaged a 72% success rate when it came to tackles won. And this right back is Sacha Boey, the Frenchman who came from Galatasaray and signed for Bayern Munich a couple seasons ago. And what I like about Sacha Boey is that he ticks a couple of boxes. Not only is he comfortable in these attacking areas, he's also quite physical yet technical on the ball. We see here he's holding off a defender whilst in their final third. And not only does he hold him off, but he also rolls the ball, puts it the other way and beats that defender, leaving a great opportunity for himself to set someone up for a chance. And he squares it to Harry Kane, who probably should have scored. No, he actually definitely should have scored. And here we have Sacha Boey in a position similar to what we just saw Jake O'Brien in. And this is the difference when you have a right back who's comfortable in these areas, that has done it before and has those reps in the bank. He beats his player and then gets his head up calmly before squaring it to his teammate Musiala for an easy goal. The second right back I've mixed it up a bit because we've got Sacha Boey, who's a 26-year-old who's experienced enough but will also have that longevity in an Everton shirt. Meanwhile, this right back, he's only 19, but he might be one of the most exciting right backs in Europe right now. Ranking extremely high for chances created, successful take-ons, progressive carries, and not too bad defensively either. There's a lot to like about this right back. And this right back currently plays for Feyenoord. His name is Javier Reed. And what's remarkable about him is that he simply comes alive in the box. But as we previously discussed, defensively, still pretty solid. He's at the corner of the box here, and this is a position that I noticed he gets into frequently when Feyenoord are attacking down the other side, meaning that he often becomes the spare man when the ball gets crossed over to him. And when the loose ball does come his way, what I liked about him is that he doesn't panic. Many players in this situation would just look to hit it as quickly as they could across the goal and hope for either a deflection or that it sneaks in at the back post. Instead of doing that, he slows himself down, gives himself that extra half a second to think about what he's going to do next. And that extra half a second comes in extremely important because he slows himself down and then just squares it across to his teammates, increasing the likelihood of a goal. And they get a goal out of this, where many players would have maybe snatched at it or maybe panicked. But he's also not shy in front of goal, because here he is in a very similar position again. And the ball, as it falls to him, is in quite an awkward position. It's bouncing up. It's just bounced before it comes to his foot. And that often sees players, especially fullbacks, sky the ball. They try to hit it as cleanly as they can. They try to strike through the ball and it goes into the stand, and it's pretty forgivable given that fullbacks don't usually get themselves into these positions, and when they do, it's a deer in headlights. But Reed shows some good technical skill here, because instead of looking to run onto it and just hit it with his laces, he actually opens up his frame, uses the instep to just simply guide it back where it came from, and it perfectly nestles in that bottom corner, hitting the post on its way in, and he gets a goal. Literal postage stamp finish, and that's such a good thing to have, goals and assists, as well as we talked about earlier, having that defensive ability when needed to rely on. That's a signing that Everton could absolutely look to make. Everton's left-hand side, though, is also a problem. It's a similar problem, but not exactly the same problem, because what we saw from Jacob Bryan was that he struggled when the ball got into the final third. But with Grealish on that left-hand side, he often takes up that left-hand side final third zone all on his own, meaning that Mykolenko often receives the ball in deeper areas and is asked to cross from those positions. And interestingly, Mykolenko averages less key passes per game than Jacob Bryan. Mykolenko averages 0.38, meanwhile Jacob Bryan averages 0.55, and Mykolenko is supposed to be the better attacking option considering he's actually a fullback. And frequently when Grealish has got the ball, you see two players doubling up on him all the time. You see it here in Malo Gusto and Pedro Neto both doubling up on Jack Grealish, meaning that Mykolenko has hanged back a bit and is completely free and has loads of space. Meaning that Mykolenko gets the ball in deeper positions, having to cross from deeper areas, and these crosses often do rely on a bit more technical ability because you're simply not just floating it to the back post as a cutback, you're actually trying to whip it into a specific area. And if the cross isn't deep enough, like it is here, it becomes very simple for the opposition defence to clear, and it causes Everton a problem here because Chelsea just head it away, and now Tarkowski is scrambling to get back and retrieve possession. Meanwhile, the Chelsea defence is all stepping up, and Everton have lost a lot of momentum through one poor cross. When looking for left-backs, this was a priority. We need somebody who can deliver those high-quality balls from deep areas, but also somebody who is comfortable at making the movements into the final third, making it harder for opposition to double up upon Jack Grealish, because that being possible so easily is a problem. Like, Jack Grealish simply just can't beat two men over and over again. The first left back I'm putting forward averages 3.34 shot creating actions per 90. Meanwhile, Mykolenko only averages 1.32. And you see them both here in both of their scout reports that they are extremely different when it comes to quality in the final third or even opposition half. I will caveat this though by saying that this left back is somebody who is playing in the Championship right now, but so many times we've seen Championship players step up and it's not a problem. This player did actually have one season in the Premier League, but the team around him, I feel, did let him down, and that wasn't a true reflection of what he could end up becoming as a player, especially if he joined Everton. And this player is Ipswich's left back, Leif Davis. Because in these deeper areas, he does have that ability to cross the ball perfectly into the box. And what I like about Leif Davis is that when I was watching the footage, you notice that he actually has a target when crossing the ball into the box. So many times with Mykolenko, he crosses the ball and you can't really tell which player he was aiming for. It's often a percentage ball. But Leif Davis has an actual target in mind every single time he crosses the ball, and it often results in him hitting the target. Because this deep cross to George Hurst is literally on his foot, meaning that George Hurst only has to redirect it towards goal to create a chance. What I also liked about Leif Davis is his combination work with Jadon Philogene, because you can instantly see how this would work. Philogene has got the ball here, and this is a position that I'd like to see Jack Grealish in more and more as the season progresses. He can be narrow because Leif Davis is taking that left-hand side width, meaning that Philogene can just sit in that channel and then try to move inside or head to the byline, because Leif Davis has made it clear that he's going to hold the width. And again, it's not a percentage ball. It's a pinpoint targeted ball with purpose. Literally, all the striker needs to do is put a foot onto that ball to get it goal bound. Listen, Tierno Barry would love this. He would absolutely love this type of service because Tierno Barry is a one-touch finisher. The next left back we've got, listen, we've got niche. Why not? Because this is something Everton need to do. They need to be looking abroad. They need to be finding these gems and bringing them to the Premier League, making them better and selling them. But that's a whole different video. This next left back is Spanish. His name is Pep Chavarria, but I'm pretty certain he will just be called Chav if we do bring him in. But what I really liked about him is the positivity he shows when he gets the ball. He ranks in the top 11% for progressive carries, and the clip I'm about to show you just demonstrates why that is the case and why it's not a fluke. Because here he starts in his own half. Within the space of less than 4 seconds, he's already got into the opposition's defensive third. And that's all well and good, but what comes next? Well, look at this cross. That's outrageous. With the fullbacks covered, now it's time to move on to a defensive midfielder. And listen, Gay is an exceptional defensive midfielder. That is not a question. But 36 years old, contract expiring this summer. Everton, if we're looking to plan ahead for the future, maybe even this season, need to bring in a defensive midfielder. Because as much as Gana Gueye is energetic, he's not going to last forever. And for this, I put forward two options. A defensive midfielder who lines up similarly to Gay in terms of stats and metrics, as well as style of defensive midfielder he is. And then we've got somebody who's a bit more of a hybrid defensive midfielder, who can do a bit of everything, similar to Boubacar Kamara at Aston Villa, but it's not him because, well, keep dreaming. Take a look at this. On this side, we have Gana Gueye's FBref scout report. And on this side, we have this new midfielder's FBref scout report. And what you notice is that defensively, they line up almost identically. And profile-wise, they are quite similar in how they win the ball back. But in possession, there was one aspect about this new midfielder that I liked so much that he had to be in this video, because I don't think I remember an Everton defensive midfielder doing it this season. And that defensive midfielder is Tyler Adams. First, I'm going to talk about why I like him, and then I'll justify why I think Everton could actually get him. When we played Bournemouth, I noticed that he frequently dropped into these positions between the centre-backs, allowing the centre-backs to split. And this has been quite a bugbear of mine this season with Everton. So many times Michael Keane or James Tarkowski have got the ball and they're quite close together and they get the ball back to their feet and then they just look up and they don't see anything in front of them and they just end up passing it backwards or sideways, and it just slows the tempo down. And when the impetus is on us to attack, we often do force it, lose the ball, transitions, and they score goals, whoever the opposition is. But this dropping in from Tyler Adams between the centre-backs just allows him to get the ball, play it, and then keep on dictating the play. And it allows Bournemouth to just move the ball around, just keep a hold of it. And it's something that I'd love to see Everton do. But defensively as well, he's also almost identical to Ghana in how proactive and aggressive his defending is. Because West Ham here trying to play the ball forward. Meanwhile, look at Tyler Adams. He's already making that move across to shut off the passing lane. Meanwhile, all of his teammates are pretty flat-footed and still. And that sees Tyler Adams cut off the passing lane and win the ball. And that's because of the mobility he's got, something that we absolutely need if we do lose Gana Gueye, because our other midfielders aren't that mobile. When it comes to the reason that I think we could get him, he's rumoured to be on £60,000 a week. Meanwhile, Idrissa Gueye is rumoured to be on £120,000 a week, meaning that we could probably offer Adams a decent contract, something that is better than his current deal. And if Iraola leaves, for example, Bournemouth does become a less attractive proposition. Listen, Everton and Bournemouth, in terms of league placement, are in similar pools, but in terms of club size, stadium infrastructure, Everton is statistically or just categorically a step up, making it a proposition worth considering for players like Tyler Adams. He's also 26, and his next move is likely going to be his biggest one in his career, and I don't see a big six team really coming in for him to make him an out-and-out starter. He maybe would become a rotation option for some of them, but wouldn't be that key man that he'd be at Everton. The next player we've got is quite a hot property. Well, he was in the summer anyway, and he went from Real Betis to Atletico Madrid, but he's only started 4 La Liga games for Atletico Madrid at the time I'm recording. Maybe he'll start one at the weekend and it'll become 5. But that's simply not enough, considering that it was a big move for him and it's a World Cup here. When it comes to his profile, I'm actually quite a big fan of it, because it may look like there are big significant gaps in some areas, like expected assists, for example, but there are also huge positives in other areas, such as tackles and interceptions being a big one, as well as successful dribbles. And successful dribbles plus high interceptions makes for quite a press-proof and resilient defensive midfielder who can not only win the ball back but also maintain possession when you need it and when you're under the pressure of the opponents trying to win that ball back in the middle third. This player is Johnny Cardozo, another American. Weirdly, I didn't expect 2 Americans to be in this video, but there we have it. Shout out Landon Donovan and Tim Howard if you're watching. Love the podcast. One of Cardozo's biggest strengths is just how switched on he is defensively. The opponents have got the ball with the goalie here, and Cardozo is still the most switched on player on the whole pitch. Because once the goalkeeper starts to wind up a long ball, Cardozo instantly turns and begins tracking that runner. And that just eases the pressure off the defense so much, because Cardozo is able to get something onto the ball and then just let Atletico Madrid win the ball back naturally without causing too much panic, all from one simple long ball. And this has been a problem at times for Everton, I feel. We may have defensive midfielders who go aggressive and win the ball, but when it comes to long sweeping balls or working back towards their own goal, there are sometimes problems in terms of being able to read it, track players, and make sure you don't lose them. And listen, I love Ghana, but this goal against Chelsea is an example of him switching off for half a second. He doesn't scan at the right time, and Cole Palmer, with the world-class talent he has, is going to take advantage of that and work in your blind spot, and that can lead to moments that just cost you games. We talked about dribbles when it came to Cardozo earlier, and this is a good example of it. He's never going to be that player who carries the ball 40 or 50 yards through the heart of midfield, but what he is a player that can win the ball, get it to his feet, turn out of trouble by using that body shift that he's got to just turn his hips and then play it to a teammate. And that's so crucial for establishing yourself in the opponent's half, because if players try to press you, you evade that press and then play in your teammate. It just makes the whole team breathe a little better, and it's a lot less panicked and a lot less rushed. And in fairness, I think James Garner is quite good at that. Listen, Atletico Madrid are probably unlikely to sell Cardozo for anything less than they bought him for, but there is that huge caveat of this being a World Cup year. And not only is it a World Cup year, it's a World Cup year for Cardozo's home nation, which is the USA. His country is hosting it, so he will want to be match sharp. And despite maybe having that place in the team nailed on, maybe he's not a starter if he doesn't get the minutes, because there are a lot of defensive midfielders from America right now. Weston McKennie at Juventus, we've just talked about Tyler Adams, and then you also have Cardozo on top of that, making it not 100% certain that he's going to start. And that may play in his mind, and that may lean him towards a move away, even if it is on loan. And we all know that loans can often become permanent. So why not come to Everton? Now we move on to the striker position. Over the summer, we obviously saw Dominic Calvert-Lewin leave. He went to Leeds, and he scored against someone, I think, in the 3-3 draw. But there are also rumours now that Beto will leave in January, and that leaves Everton with only one striker in Tieno Barry. And this means that Everton will need to bring in another 9, especially in January if Beto does leave, because Tieno Barry is one injury away from leaving us without a striker. The first striker I'm putting forward is a 23-year-old with quite a rare profile that I'm a big fan of, and it actually reminds me of an ex-Premier League striker that I used to love back in the day. He scored 5 goals in 13 Bundesliga appearances this season, but his underlying metrics elsewhere make him such an exciting proposition. He ranks high in progressive carries, take-ons, also shot-creating actions, and he's 6'2". His name is Tim Lamperla. Before we look at his goals, just look at this. He starts off in the channel here, and despite having that big 6'2" frame, he's still able to turn quickly and beat the defender sharply here. And after beating a player, his next action is frequently accurate, as he sets up his teammate who takes a shot or goal. Again here we see him drifting into that wide position, not afraid to work the channels, and instead of looking to work the ball inside and then pass to a teammate, he just crosses the ball himself. And look at the cross. It's a great cross, and it results in a goal. Now let's look at his goals, and people who have seen my stuff before, they know that I love when a striker does that outstretched arm to hold off a defender. And if you haven't seen my videos before, subscribe and like, thank you. But Lamperla is a striker that is just so adept at using his body, that 6'2" frame he's got, to manipulate defenders into doing what he wants them to do. Often he dictates to them which way they're going to go. That's exactly what he does here, because he uses that arm to hold off the defender. Look where the defender ends up. He's on the floor. He's got a wife and family to go home to after this. How's he going to explain that one to them? And after he's been sent flying, well, Lamperla just finishes so calmly into the bottom right-hand side of the goal. But also, he has got those natural striker qualities and instincts that you do definitely need if you are to score double digits in a campaign. Because the ball falls here, the ball is a bit everywhere, everybody's scrambling. Lamperla takes a touch, then just hits it. And look at the accuracy and the power, and he hits it cleanly and it goes in. These are all little things that strikers need to do, and Lamperla has all of them in abundance. And the player he reminded me of, by the way, was Erdin Dzeko, who also played in the Bundesliga at that age. And for the next striker, we've actually not gone to Europe at all. Gone to Brazil for this one, because in Brazil there are often untapped potential. Everton never look in South America. I think the last player we bought from South America might have been Funes Mori, who came from River Plate. And since then, Dennis Straculersi? I don't know. But Everton need to start looking in these South American markets, because look at Brighton. They've got so much success stories from buying these gems, making them into something, and then selling them. Another club who have actually started doing this that we haven't seen yet is Bournemouth. They've got so many 17-year-olds from South America. It's strange. But Everton, now is the time to do it. Because in the Brazilian league, I found a striker that scored 21 goals last season, as well as registering 8 assists in 33 appearances, giving him 29 goal involvements in total. Almost a goal involvement every single game on average. And he's not just a goal scorer, because he's got this weird way of dribbling. Even though he's quite square and stocky, his dribbling is actually better than you would first think by looking at him. This striker is Cai Jones. He was actually at Juventus 3 years ago, but never really got that opportunity, and then went back to Brazil and has really honed his craft since then, and maybe now looking towards a move back to Europe. Let's look at his dribbling first, because his dribbling is actually quite fun. He's a throwback in a way, because he just tries things. It doesn't really work out all the time, but when it does, it's really fun, because look, the ball gets played into him here and he just flicks it over his head. And that poor defender, 2 defenders now in 2 different clips that I've got families they've got to go home to. But anyway, bring it to Everton. I want to see this. Another example here, he wins the ball back, and then he's surrounded by defenders, but he gets out of it by a little 1 to his left, 1 to his right, quick 1-2 movement, and then he gets his head up to make the next action. And he often couples up this good footwork with good movement, because this movement often sets up that potential for an opportunity to beat a player. You can see here, he's running towards the goal directly. He then stops, starts moving the other way, and then starts targeting the space again. And the defenders have lost him by this point, and the ball gets slipped into him. And admittedly, this is shocking defending. It is shocking defending by Vasco da Gama's defenders, but listen, what can you do? Oh, and it gets worse, because Cai Jones then absolutely sends this defender for a hot dog, and actually doesn't come off perfectly, but then he beats him again before putting in a ball across the 6-yard box for his teammate. And now it's time for the goals. Listen, he scored 21 goals last season. This is what we came for. This is the main event. Let's see how he does it. To be honest, he's actually quite simple in his movement when it comes to positioning himself in the box, and sometimes that's fine. By slowing yourself down, you often give yourself that moment of space, because people will often be erratic in their defending, try to drop deep, try to defend the spaces. Meanwhile, Cai Jones often slows down, gets to the penalty spot, and then just waits for the ball to fall to him. And look, he gets rewards from it, like this one. And as well, lovely pyrotechnics. Lovely pyrotechnics. Smash that like button. But he can also run in behind. He gets the ball here from the left back, playing it in behind, and he times his movement so well, despite not actually having that much pace, but he times his movement perfectly to allow himself to get into these positions of space. And he's so calm when he's one-on-one with the goalkeeper. Listen, he's only 23 as well, by the way. His calmness in front of goal is a very good aspect of his game that will only get better as well, and he's pretty good now. And this is why it's interesting, because as I just mentioned, he's 23. It's a World Cup here. Brazil generally don't really have a nailed-on number 9. Honestly, Igor Thiago could end up being their number 9 at the World Cup. Those have been the 8 players I think Everton should sign. If you want to see a part 2 or maybe even more transfer content, press that like, press the subscribe button, put it in the comments. All my socials are in the bio. Thank you. Go follow all of them. I will be much appreciative. Thank you.